Worthy Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Sajid Mahmood Shehzad, distinguished guests, honorable scholars, policy makers, representatives from governmental and non-governmental organizations of Pakistan, maritime, national and international experts, and dear participants. By the grace of Almighty Allah, this is the third year Minhaj University is being able to host an academic conference on a very important subject and area which has a lot of potential for Pakistan. And I believe Minhaj University and CRIMA, a very unique center working at Minhaj University, Lahore, has been contributing in the area of maritime affairs in last many years tremendously, and I believe in future there is a lot more coming from this center and Minhaj University for the betterment of maritime industry and field in Pakistan. I believe there has been a lot of panel discussions, keynote speeches, and great insight coming from the experts of maritime affairs. And I'm sure the participants of this conference, and especially the students and faculty members, they have been learning throughout the day, and this will have a lasting impact on the memories of all the participants, and of course, in terms of policy making, we'll have enough fruits bear today from this conference. Dear audience, our beloved country boasts a vital marine heritage with a coastline stretching approximately 1,050 kilometers along Arabian Sea. This coastline, divided between the provinces of Sindh and Balochistan, is home to thriving communities, bustling ports, biologically diverse ecosystem, and an evolving maritime industry in Pakistan. Yet, challenges abound. The Indus Delta is witnessing significant ecological stress. Plastic and industrial pollution jeopardize our marine life, and unplanned coastal urbanization threatens both infrastructure and livelihood. That is why this year's Maritime Conference theme has been selected to be the ecological sustainability and climate change effect on maritime industry. Dear audience, it is important to note that we have a rich history and past in terms of maritime affairs. When I say rich history, that does not mean the history of Pakistan only. As a majority Muslim country, we connect ourselves to the history which has been there for the last 1400 years. And when we look at that history, we find it very rich, and it is always pleasant and important to revisit our own history. That certainly provides us with more motivation and energy to plan better for our next generation and country. So just to give you the glimpse of some of the major contributions of Muslims came in the way towards the maritime development in the history in the past. we see that shortly after Islam began in 7th century, Muslims ruled territories, expanded across regions bordering Red Sea, Arabian Sea and Mediterranean Sea. During this phase, maritime routes took on heightened significance for trade, defense and religious obligations like performing Hajj. Early caliphs of Muslim dynasties recognized strategic value of naval power and developed basic maritime norms to address piracy, safe passage and fair taxation. Although these regulations were scattered in various administrative decrees, they laid the groundwork for more systematic codification in subsequent centuries. More systematic codification we see, and that had a lot of contribution in today's development for the rules and regulations related to maritime affairs by various countries. If we look at the key contributions towards that area, contributors, we see Al-Mawardi between 974 to 1058 CE in his work expounded on governance principles, underscoring the state's duty to provide trade routes and ensure justice in maritime disputes. Similarly, Al-Kalkashandi between 1355 to 1418 CE, we see him contributing in his encyclopedia work and in his treatise, which provides detailed insights into state administration, including port management and shipping regulations, like fair custom duties and systematic record keeping remained relevant for future Muslim states. Similarly, we see Ibn Khaldun. Primarily, he is recognized for his contributions in the area of sociology and historiography, although he also contributed and touched on economic systems and importance of naval strength and the role of maritime trade in sustaining societal prosperity. Another great name, Ahmad ibn Majid, between 1421 to 1500 CE. He was known as the Lion of the Sea. His work on navigation offered practical sailing guidance. Also, he advocated for the norms of cooperation and safety at sea. Dear audience, it wasn't only these great scholars who contributed towards the development of maritime studies. If we look into the Islamic jurisprudence, the Sharia law, we will find a lot of such statements by great jurists of Islam contributing towards maritime affairs. For example, in the Islamic jurisprudential literature, we find rules and regulations related to collective responsibility, which is related to maritime affairs, in which it states, in crisis situation like storms, the notion of distributing losses among cargo owners promoted equitable risk management throughout the history. Similarly, security and safe passage, another important area which has been discussed by Islamic jurists. Rulers were mandated to curb piracy and protect travelers, paralleling modern-day concept of freedom of navigation. Similarly, environmental consciousness, while formal environmental laws were not as explicit as they are today, the Islam, however, emphasized on the concept of amana, the concept of trust over natural resources, implied a moral duty not to degrade seas or coasts. Dear audience, Pakistan as an Islamic republic shares not only faith, but also the cultural ethos that shaped these fundamental principles. The value of justice, stewardship, and mutual cooperation, central to Golden Age approach, remains deeply relevant. As grapple with marine pollution, coastal erosion, and the need for balanced economic growth, incorporating these legacy can enrich our current policy framework, ensuring that maritime governance align with both the national laws as well as Quranic mandates and modern sustainability goals. Dear audience, if we look at Islamic perspective on environmental stewardship, we see a lot of literature of ahadith from Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is a popular tradition of the Prophet of Islam in which he states, there is a reward for serving any animate being, which means protecting marine life from fish in Arabian Sea to turtles nesting along Pakistan's sandy shores, accordingly becomes an act of spiritual significance. There is another important tradition by the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam in which he states, do not waste water even if you were on the bank of flowing river. This tradition guides us to avoid extravagance and ensures efficient water usage applied to our coastal environment. It emphasizes minimal pollution and waste discharge. Dear audience, Pakistan's constitution acknowledges the principles of Islam as guiding directives. Consequently, initiatives by Ministry of Climate Change and Ministry of Maritime Affairs can draw on Islamic ethics to encourage grassroots participants, mosques, religious schools, and community religious leaders can reinforce conservation message, transforming environmental care into a collective responsibility. This faith-based integration can also inspire philanthropic ventures and corporate social responsibility initiatives for restoring mangroves, cleaner beaches, and protecting marine wildlife in the country. Dear audience, Pakistan's coastal line extends from Sar Creek in Sindh to Diwani in Balochistan. There is a lot we can see as a treasure of maritime affairs along this line, but at the same time there are many issues maritime industry of Pakistan is facing. If we look at some of those important issues, we see Karachi, a mega city with over 15 million residents, channels significant amount of untreated sewage and industrial influent into the sea. Chemicals, heavy metals, and gases harm marine life, degrade beaches, and pose public health risks. Similarly, many coastal communities depends on fishing. However, unregulated trawling and use of banned nets disturbs fish breeding cycles in Pakistan, leading to declining stocks of fish. Similarly, we see diminishing mangroves in the Indus Delta remove natural buffer against storm and erosion. Urban sprawl and industrial expansion also threatens wetlands and other sensitive habitats in Pakistan. Rising sea levels, changing monsoon patterns, and ocean acidification compound existing vulnerabilities, placing both infrastructure and agriculture of the country at risk. There is another important issue in which the government and all the relevant stakeholders need to look into. That is The multiple agencies often lack coordination, causing overlapping roles and inefficient enforcement. Then there is another issue, which is fisher flock and coastal communities are seldom involved in decision making, resulting in policies that might not reflect ground realities related to coastal areas and the industry in Pakistan. Although research bodies like National Institute of Oceanography exists, their findings are not always translated into actionable, well-funded projects in Pakistan. To achieve meaningful change, Pakistan can employ a holistic model encompassing environmental, economic, and social dimensions. Countries like Australia have successfully used ICZM to reconcile development with conservation. Similarly, expanding marine protected areas, which are MPAs, can conserve critical habitat and help restore fish population, as evident by examples from other maritime nations. Setting catch limits, enforcing seasonal bans, and promoting community-led coastal resource management could benefit Pakistan's maritime industry. Encouraging offshore wind-responsible agriculture and ecotourism can generate revenue while preserving marine ecosystem. If we look at the effects of marine pollution on Pakistan coastal infrastructure, we see Karachi alone produces around 12,000 tons of solid waste daily, a significant portion of which ends up in drains and Arabian Sea. Plastics break down into microplastics, which disrupts marine food webs and destroys the stock of fish in Pakistan's waters. Incidents like Tasman Strait oil spill in 2003 caused several ecological damage near Karachi, revealing inadequate spill response mechanisms had left the country and coastal areas still damaged. Excess fertilizers and pesticides from Indus Basin farmlands wash into the delta and eventually the sea, causing harmful algal blooms. Coastal power plants discharge warm water, altering local temperatures and oxygen levels, stressing marine organisms. Contaminated seafood, polluted bathing waters, and toxic air near ports elevate disease burdens on the nation, particularly gastrointestinal and other ailments which have been proven to be coming from these coastal pollution effects are still to be addressed. Potential tourist spots like Clifton Beach lose appeal due to a garbage London shores negatively affecting local business. How a country can promote coastal tourism if our beaches and such beautiful spots are under threat and filled up with the garbage? Similarly, declining fish stock threatens the livelihoods of over 500,000 coastal fishermen, leading to increased poverty and social instability. Another important issue is coral communities near Churna Island experience bleaching episodes linked to rising sea temperatures and pollution, threatening a unique marine ecosystem. Dear audience, although Pakistan's marine challenges are unique, but country can learn from the successful examples from other countries, and they can be a good guide for Pakistan. Such as the Netherlands, a low-lying country effectively manages coastal floods through integrated water resources management. And Pakistan's Indus Delta faces a comparable risk of flooding due to reduced freshwater and rising sea level. So we can learn from Netherlands' examples to address issues emerging and rising in Pakistan. Pakistan should restore floodplains which could guide Indus Delta revitalization. Pakistan can explore smaller scale surge barriers near coastal cities, especially for Karachi and Gwadar. Strategic beach nourishment could help country counter erosion, also Sindh and Balochistan coasts. Like Karachi, Singapore is also a major port city with high population density, but has managed to maintain relatively clean shorelines. So why a Karachi cannot achieve such targets and objectives? Similarly, Pakistan strengthened legislation with larger fines for illegal dumping to control such pollution in Pakistan. Dear audience, in Gwadar, where reclamation projects are underway, best practices can be mitigated and habitat destruction can be stopped by learning from worldwide successful examples. Norway relies on maritime industry much like Pakistan, but invests heavily in greener technologies and sustainable fishery management. So Pakistan learned from Norway. Converting local fishing and fleets and coastal ferries to low emission fuels or electric power could reduce Pakistan's maritime carbon footprint. Scientific oversight ensures fish stock recovery. Pakistan's Balochistan coastline could benefit from very well managed MPAs near sensitive spots like Astola Island. While global examples offer valuable insights for Pakistan, but Pakistan also requires few tailored approaches for the country and development, reflecting its socio-economic conditions, cultural values, and political realities. Here, before I conclude, I would like to list few proposals and suggestions for the maritime industry of the country. Pakistan has multiple environmental acts. The Pakistan's Environmental Protection Act 1997 and maritime specific regulations, but these need to be updated to incorporate stricter penalties, clearly defined responsibilities, and modern sustainability standards. Secondly, enforcement agencies should receive updated technical training, including the use of remote sensing, satellite monitoring, and water quality testing technologies in Pakistan. Deploy real-time sensors for water quality, tide levels, and weather patterns along strategic points like Karachi Harbour, Gwadar Port, and Kiti Bandar. This data can inform emergency responses and long-term planning. Underwater drones can map coral reef near Chorna Island, monitor illegal fishing, or detect pipeline leakages. Aerial drones could track shoreline erosion and plastic issues. AI tools can analyze satellite imagery to estimate fish stocks, detect illegal trawling, and propose catch limits. Explore biodegradable materials for coastal reinforcement, to create living shorelines that integrate plant life through oysters and other organisms to stabilize Pakistan's coastal line. Engage local fisher communities in drafting fishing quotas and monitoring compliance. Joint committees with government officials ensure that ground realities are considered. In contemporary times, religious leaders in Pakistan can become critical and crucial partners for government-led conservation projects. For instance, mosque-based awareness programs. During Friday congregational prayers, imams can deliver sermons highlighting the sin of polluting water resources, reaffirming both Quranic verses and hadith, the traditions of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to educate people and spread more awareness among people about their ethical and moral responsibilities being Muslims. And they can contribute towards the maritime industry and ecological environment of Pakistan, and their give of the financial while taking any such initiative towards development. I would like to propose the concept of Waqf, which is a charitable endowment, the Islamic charitable endowment, could be harnessed to fund environmental projects like mangrove reforestation or beach cleanup drives. This tradition resonates with Islamic teachings on continuous charity, which is Sadaqah Jariyah. Integrate marine conservation subjects into our provincial textbooks, that is the proposal, through media, both traditional and social media, can run awareness campaigns on beach cleanups, pollution reporting hotlines, and sustainable fishing practices. Another proposal, which is to offer a subsidies or low interest loans for startups, focusing on plastic recycling, solar powered boats, or ecotourism, tapping into the creativity and entrepreneurship of the young Pakistanis. Dear audience, there is a lot of potential in that industry, and wood could achieve out of this industry a lot of fruits, such as offshore wind farms, wave energy, and tidal energy have a potential along the Makran coast. Pilot projects can be launched in collaboration with international partners as well as the private NGOs and entities of the country. Sustainable fish farming could reduce pressure on wild stock while generating export income. Strict guidelines must be in place to avoid habitat damage and disease spread. Pristine sites like Astola Island can attract eco-tourists, generating revenue for local communities if managed properly. Upgrading ports with environmental friendly technologies, clearer fuel, port electrification, improved waste management system can enhance Pakistan's role as a regional trade hub while meeting international emission standards as well. Dear audience, distinguished participants and experts, the journey today has taken us, today's conference has taken us through multiple dimensions. And we have learned a lot from the experts, the practitioners who have shared great ideas through panel discussion and keynote speeches. So what we need to do today, let us embrace this responsibility with unwavering dedication. Let us collaborate across federal and provincial lines among public institutions and private sector through religious channels and civil society network to safeguard our coastal treasures. This is a mission that transcends individual gain. It encompasses the fate of entire ecosystem, the prosperity of economy, and health of our people. As the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam once said, whoever plants a tree and look after it until it bears fruit or matures, it is counted as charity for him. So this is the message I would like you all to take back from this conference. May Allah Almighty make us understand what we have discussed today and make us work on it together for the country, this great country, Pakistan. Thank you very much.